Okay, so when we first start up Access, this is the first thing we'll see, and this is a view of templates. And these templates can be used to go ahead and give you a jump start on any project that you may or may not have. Over here we have our suggested searches over here, and you can go ahead and click one of those and it'll pull that out here, and or you can go ahead and select in here and type what you want to search for, and it'll search from thousands and thousands of different templates that you may or may not use. Over here you have your menu to save and to print and to close and to access your account over here, and I'll show you when we first start how we can get back to this menu. But right now we want to go ahead and start a blank database, and so I'm going to select that. It's going to ask me where I want to save that. I'm just going to go ahead and save it wherever and hit create. From here it starts me off with uh, the default table that starts up with really no name here because it hasn't been saved and it hasn't been really named. So in order to kill two birds with one stone, instead of going back to here, clicking save, now in order for me to get back I hit this arrow. Instead of doing all of that, I'm just going to hit Control S in order to save it and rename it, because in order to rename it I can go over here where all my objects are and I can hit right and then right click it and hit rename, and then I can rename it that way, and then it'll rename. But right now I can hit Control S and I can save it and rename it simultaneously. So I'm going to go ahead and rename that table, and I'm going to call that planet. Hit OK. So now I have this saved and I have it renamed. But so far all I have here is I have this one field here that's called an ID. This is my ID field. This is actually a primary key. We can't tell it from here, but that's what it is. And it automatically gives every table a primary key. But I don't have anything other than a primary key. If I were to put something here, it will automatically add a field name here, which I don't really want. I want to go ahead and start defining what sort of data goes into this table. So instead of being in this view, I'm going to go here and I'm going to change the view, and if I click this little arrow down here I can see I have a design view and I have a data sheet view. Right now we're in the design view because we want to go ahead and design what goes into this table. I'm going to go ahead and rename this primary key. And how do I know it's a primary key? Because I have a key here, and over here this little button is selected that says primary key. That's how I know. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hit planet. I'm going to type this planet ID so that I know that that's the planet ID field for the planet ID table, and it automatically gives me a data type of auto increment. That's what I want. And so I go over here and I'm just going to add a name, underscore name, tab over, and I'll keep that as short text, and I'll say planet underscore type, and I'll keep that as short text, and I'll say and I'm going to change this to a date, and there we go. Now one thing I want to maintain here is that all the time every time we create these short texts, it's going to give us a default number of characters that go up in here, and right now I really don't want as many that's in here. So if I select this field, I can go down here and look at the field properties, and over here it shows me that this is 255. I don't want 255. Maybe I only want 10 characters, and I'll click enter from there, and I'm going to go ahead and set this to 10 characters. Actually, I'll set this to 5 characters just so you can see how this thing enforces the rules that you set forth. And I can have date change with the input mask, but I'm just going to leave that as it is, and I'm going to hit Control S. Now when I go back here, go back to this view, now I can see I have these fields here. I have planet name, I have planet type, created date, and I have my planet ID. Now the planet ID, as we said, is a primary key. So we want to keep that in mind when we get to connecting this table with the next table. So I want to create another table. I'm going to go to the Create tab, and I'm going to hit Table. And again, instead of me going to File, Save, that sort of stuff, I want to go ahead and do two things at once by hitting Control S. So I can not only save, change the name, TBL, Moon, just create the Moons table. I can also save it at the same time. So now I have a moons table and I have a planets table. Over here again, I have the ID and I have nothing here. So I want to go ahead and define this table. Change this to moon ID, and you'll see why I changed these names, because when we're creating the relationships, I'll be able to note that this is the moon's ID, and that this is the planet's ID. So here again is auto number, and I'm just going to give the moon a name, Oh, because we have to add the data type. So add the data type here. Excuse me. So we have the short data type, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and I'm going to change that to 15. And now, in order to connect this table's moon with the table's planet, TBL planets, we need to use the foreign key. I mean the primary key. In the moon, we have a primary key. In the planets, we have a primary key. So in order to allow the moon to know about the planets, we have to allow the moon to have access to the planet's primary key. And in order for this primary key to work with that primary key, we're going to need it to have the exact same data type. So over here we have a primary key with auto number data type. We don't want that the moon, because we want to be able to add the number that goes in there. So what we want to be able to do is notice that this is auto number, but actually it is a long integer, which actually simply is a number. So I'm going to go over here to planet, and I'm going to go change this data type to a number. Now if I look here, I have a number and I have a long integer. So now I have both of these that are equivalent, and they can kind of connect to each other. And I'm going to hit Control S. Now in order for me to connect these two tables together, I'm going to go over here to the Design tab. I'm going to go to Relationships. When I do that, you notice I don't have any relationships over here in view. I can select these two separately, but I like to do two things at once, so I'm going to go ahead and select it and then hold shift down, select the other one, and then click add. I could have easily just went up here, select that one, and then select that one, and then added it. As you notice, it added two more versions of that table. I don't want those two, so I'm going to select it and hit delete. I'm not deleting the table, I'm just deleting this view, and I'll go over here and do this. Now I'm going to go ahead and connect these two, but I'm going to get an error, but I want you to see this error because this is what people do all the time. So I'm going to select this planet ID, and I'm going to drag it over here to the moon's planet ID, and I want to enforce referential integrity. I notice I have planet ID underscore here, I have planet underscore ID over here. I'm going to hit create, and I run into the error, and basically what this is saying is that you got those tables open, so I can't connect them because the database is using it. So I'm going to close those tables, and if you notice, this planet ID was not saved. I tried to close it, and it automatically said that asked me if I wanted to save it, and I'm going to hit yes. Now over here I drag the planet ID to this planet ID. I want to enforce referential integrity, and basically what that means is if I have a planet ID in the moon's table that doesn't exist in the planets table, I'm not going to allow that. So that's what enforce referential integrity means. I'll go ahead and create, and then creates a relationship between these two tables. Now let's see what that does. I'm going to go ahead and open up these two tables by double clicking them. Select this relationship, right click, and close. I don't need to save the relationship because it's already connected. And you'll see if I go over here to, if I select this table, let's see, and I go to tables over here and I select the relationship, you can see it's still there. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. Alright, so now I have this over here, and in moons first I'm going to add the planets. And when I go ahead and click in the create date, created date, I get this little calendar here because I made that a date field. I'm going to go and select that and select any date, and I go here and I do like that, and then I'm going to go to the next one, and I'm going to do that, and you notice it automatically added a number here, and I'm going to do something like this, and I'll go something like this, and you'll hear that beep. That beep is because over here we declared that we will only accept 10, and I think one of these were 5, this one was 5. So if you notice, I try to go over that number, it won't let me do that. And why is that? Is what we said before. Over here we put that as 10, and over here we put that as 5, so it's preventing that from happening. Over here this one will be 5. As you can see, if I just type 1 2 3 4 5, and I can't go anymore. And I'm gonna go ahead and add a date here. There we go. Now I have some planets here. I have planet 1, 2, and 3. When I go to moons, however, if I start clicking over here and I leave this, let me see, put 23, and I go over here, and you see it won't let me put that record in there because this planet ID does not connect to any planets that's over here, and that's what that enforcement means. So what I have to do is I have to make sure that my planet ID is connected to one of the planets over here. So I'm going to say planet 2 right there. and now it'll let me do it. And if I can go over here, this one's going to automatically increment, and I can say, oh, that one's planet 2 also. Go over here, and this one would be planet 1, so on and so forth. So now we created two tables, a moons table and a planet ID table. We created a relationship. So if I go over here, clear here, sorry. Over here I have a relationship, so 1 to many. So one planet can have many moons. And then over here in our planets, we have our connection between this created date from this planet ID to over here, our foreign key over here in the moons table, our planet ID. So always remember that a primary key in one table is basically the foreign key in another table. So if I have planet ID over here and I have planet ID over here, this is considered the foreign key. So the last thing you want to do is just make sure you save your database, Control S, or go to File, and you can hit Save As to rename it, or just hit Save.